Justin, I know you weren't born with the advantage of being ready.
Yeah.
But you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps, and you've made yourself ready. Is that not right?
It's the American dream, baby.
From a poor steel town neighborhood to the shores of the Caribbean to Oakland, California. All right. You ready? I guess so. Here we go.
This is Siri. The Daily Tech News Show by Tom Merritt is brought to you by all of the supporters at Patreon. If you also want to support Tom, go to patreon.com/acedetect. That is patreon.com/ACEDTECT. And thanks as always for listening to the Daily Tech News Show.
This is the Daily Tech News for today, which happens to be Thursday, June 4th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Mr. Justin Robert Young, podcaster and DTNS contributor extraordinaire. Not just ordinaire, extra.
No, you might expect a certain level of ordinaire.
Sure.
Not with me. I give you extra.
Goes the extra flavor for that extra long something. Hey, we're going to comb over this rumor that's been flitting around thanks to the Wall Street Journal. The Dish and T-Mobile USA are in merger talks. It's got the business world buzzing. It's got the media world buzzing. It's got the tech world buzzing. So we will tell you the details here in the headlines and then talk about it in a bit. Play that headline music. Wall Street Journal reports people familiar with the matter say Dish and T-Mobile USA having high-level talks about a merger. The two companies agree on the form the combined entity would take. Dish's Charlie Ergen would be chairman. T-Mobile's John Legere is supposedly going to be CEO. That's the allegation from the people familiar with the matter. The thing the two sides have not agreed about yet is money. Ain't that always the way? Dish owns a lot of unused mobile spectrum, and every self-respecting wireless carrier in the U.S. dreams of marrying a video distributor someday. Except for that jerk Verizon who went and just bought OnCue from Intel. Dirtbag. Gold digger.
You know, just like the bully in the high school movie, Verizon, just having its way. You're with me, OnCue.
OnCue never loved you, Verizon.
Set the timer on your smartphone, people. Apple will begin selling some models of the Apple Watch in retail stores beginning in 2 weeks, according to TechCrunch. The watches will also go on sale in 7 more countries on June 26, including Italy, Mexico, Singapore, South Korea, Spain, Taiwan, and Switzerland, the very backyard of so many fancy watchmakers. If you ordered an Apple Watch online in May, you should get it within 2 weeks, unless it's the 42mm space black stainless steel model, which has been the slowest to reach customers.
Make you feel any better, Justin, about the delay on your own watch?
Yes, I mean, I guess now that I have it, right, like, I feel like all of that rage has subsided, and I am now very, very happy with it, and I am now looking at this news as some kind of bellwether on where the install base is and therefore where the app community is. That's all. I see this and WWDC coming up, and all I look at is, yay, a lot of people are buying it, which means people will want to make cool things that are very specifically tailored for
We'll play around with it. VentureBeat reports that Yahoo announced several product closures, including Yahoo Pipes. There was a time when most of the podcasts I did ran through Yahoo Pipes. GeoPlanet's going to close down too, Place Spotter, and even Yahoo Maps, although some Maps functionality used by Search and products like Flickr will be kept running. Several international media properties will close down too, including Yahoo Music in France and Canada, the entire Yahoo homepage in the Philippines. Yahoo is also killing support for Yahoo Mail on older iOS devices. And let me see here. It looks like we have a pro tip from our producer, Jenny. If you work on any of these teams and your boss wants to meet you in a conference room, start grabbing Kind bars from the kitchen.
I remember back in the mid-aughts, as podcasting was just getting its footing, and looking at Yahoo Pipes as a distribution solution and realizing that something that was a bit behind the scenes, you had to be a little nerdy to really take advantage of it, was a tremendous litmus test of what people wanted to really look at on the internet in private. Because the most popular listed pipes were things that were, by and large, certain elements of pornography that you would not necessarily like to advertise to certain members of your family and friends.
Yeah. Well, it was the forerunner of if this, then that.
Yeah.
Except I guess what you're saying, it was if this, then whoa.
Then, shh. Ars Technica reports that the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, has named 6 games to its new World Video Game Hall of Fame. Pong, Pac-Man, Super Mario Brothers, Tetris, Doom, and World of Warcraft were chosen by an advisory committee of about 24 journalists, scholars, and game historians. The goal was to choose games that, quote, have enjoyed popularity over a sustained period and have exerted influence on the video game industry or on popular culture and society in general. The inductees will be included in a playable form at the museum's eGame Revolution exhibit.
So World of Warcraft over Space Invaders. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
You want to know what? I look at this, and of course, let's preface this. All Hall of Fames are invented for 2 reasons: to recognize people who did great work in the field, and primarily to generate interest, which is usually shorthand for argument. So there will always be argument about every Hall of Fame, and the Video Game Hall of Fame will be no different. I kind of feel like all of these kind of could have been their own headline inductee. I don't know why you had to, I mean, Pong, Pac-Man, Super Mario Brothers, and Tetris certainly you kind of feel like could be, you know, a headline inductee in their own year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think is interesting, especially to go in over Wolfenstein, which was to me the first big, first-person shooter that kind of defined that genre. Doom was certainly, I guess, more popular. But World of Warcraft also, it's like, I don't know. It just seems weird that
no Eve Online, no Sonic, no Zelda. We could go all day arguing about this. I feel like what they were trying to do is pick the pinnacle property in its genre / period of time. So because they're listed here in order: Pong, then Pac-Man, and you know why it's not Zelda? Because Super Mario Brothers was just that much more popular than Legend of Zelda at that era. Then Tetris is like, it launched its own kind of category. Doom, like you said, was the popularizer of that franchise. And World of Warcraft, same thing as Doom, right? Not the first, but definitely the most successful.
So does World of Warcraft get the RPG slot? Because that would be the one thing.
The MMORPG slot, for sure, yeah.
Right now, but there's no Final
Yeah, you're right. There's no strategy games in here. Hello, SimCity, Civilization, what up?
Let's drive on up to Rochester, grab yourself a garbage plate, and yell at the Strong Museum Advisory Committee.
Facebook is rolling out a new Android app that's designed to use less data and run faster for folks with spotty data connections, according to Reuters. Facebook Lite uses less than half a megabyte of data and supports Facebook's news feed, status updates, notifications, and photos. It does not support things like videos or advanced location services. Facebook Lite is available in select Asian countries and will soon be made available in parts of Latin America, Africa, and Europe. Facebook. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Facebook also. I did that to myself. Facebook also turned off constant mapping right before the show, which is why I forgot to read this part. In Facebook Messenger, in anticipation of rolling out new features like one-time location sharing with friends through Messenger. So I'm actually more enthralled with Facebook Lite than the fact that they turned off the location thing in Messenger.
I'm almost curious on whether or not this continues the fracture nature of where Facebook is going app-wise to continue to just break out very little segments of what they do, not only in terms of the apps that they purchase and kind of fold in, but in the messengerization. Like, what if there is just the timeline app and it really has nothing else but just a quick glance to your timeline?
That's an interesting thought. I mean, the motivation for Facebook Lite is definitely markets where you only got 2G or you've got really expensive data, and people are very sensitive to using a lot of data. But that doesn't mean they won't look at this and come up with ideas for other spin-off apps, because they do seem to be looking for standalone apps. And when you look at a messaging platform like Line, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, coming up with other successful apps on the platform is a successful strategy. so far.
Well, and it always seems odd to me whenever things are branded as less than another thing. Like Facebook Lite seems weird to me, whereas Facebook Timeline seems like, oh, here's a solution for a problem I have.
But that's market specific. Facebook Lite is going to play really well in parts of Asia, Latin America, Africa.
Oh, I guess the product isn't necessarily it. It's just a matter of how we are to understand it. And hey, listen, it's their business. Here is something amazing. And Tom and I got into a big conversation before the show about how rad this platform has become. All right, I'm going to pitch this here to you. What do you do when you want to have a nice conversation between just you and 200 of your closest friends? Install Line's new Android app, Popcorn Buzz. That's what you do. As the next web tells it, it lets you use your Line messaging account to send out a link through email, text, or social network, and any of your Line contacts can join in and talk. It's voice only for now, but Line says it's working on group video chat, interconnectivity with Line groups, and, of course, an iOS version.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this isn't the only Line app that's independent of the Line messaging app. They've got all kinds of music and shopping and payments, etc. If this can handle, it's not going to handle 200 video chatting people at once, but if it can handle some kind of video chat as well, I think they've got a Viber competitor, even a Skype competitor here, for sure.
What's crazy interesting about this is that Line and messaging in general has become really, 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 really experimental and interesting. The messaging as a platform has been remarkable, and because I always obsess about these things, I kind of feel like this is one of those the tech press needs to look back and apologize to a lot of these apps, because the knock on them was, well, how are you going to make money? People, a lot of these are either free or they don't cost much to use, and the only way you're going to make cash is by selling crazy stickers. And so beyond advertising in the way that we understand display advertising and add-on sticker stuff, really, I don't think people saw the big, bright, eclectic future that we are experiencing right now as short as like 3 years ago. It's remarkable.
Yeah. People earlier this year were making sticker jokes about Line still, just not quite understanding how successful the platform has been, and that it's a platform, as you rightly said. BizTech Africa reports Zimbabwe's Dr. Lloyd Muzangwa and Tanzanian engineer George Kahabuka took home the mid-stage prize in the Standard Bank Water for Africa Challenge for their Maji 1200 water purification system. The mid-stage prize is given to systems ready for deployment. They've tested it. It's ready to go. The Maji 1200 combines UV light with solar energy to make water purification available not only off the grid, but with minimal maintenance. You got to change the bulb every once in a while and swap out the filter every once in a while. That's it. Team will use its $5,000 prize money to build and donate Maji 1200 units to schools in rural Zimbabwe, and they've got a crowdfunding project up and ready to go at GoFundMe.com/OHYRAC.
And this is definitely one of those, a little bit can go a long way. I mean, if they're going to be doing a lot with a $5,000 prize purse, you can imagine what something that could catch wind in a crowdfunding sense could do.
Oh yeah, if you're operating a water system in rural Zimbabwe and you can spend less than a few $1,000s to just have everything purified and not even add to your power bill, that's huge.
Tom, I'm going to ask you to please ready the sounder for this next story.
Yes, sir. Okay. Male or female?
Let's go male.
Okay.
All right. New data from IDC shows
Xiaomi
has risen to the world's second biggest seller of wearables, just behind Fitbit. TechCrunch reports that
Xiaomi
came in with 2.8 million shipments for Q1 2015 at 24.6% of the market, ahead of Garmin's 6.1%, Samsung's 5.1%, and Jawbone's 4.4%. Fitbit still leads the pack at 3.9 million shipments, giving it a 34.2% market share. The data, very tellingly, does not include the Apple Watch, which just started shipping in April and will probably rock the boat just a little bit.
This takes me back. It takes me back to the mid-2000s when we started seeing IDC break out smartphones, pre-iPhone, by the way, from their phone selling data. to see like IDC starting to make some hay, get some attention around its wearables market share lists. Not that this is the first one they've ever put out, but people are starting to pay attention, especially when you see names like
小米
jumping into the top of the list. And Fitbit's been dominating this. That's probably why you haven't seen a lot of headlines around this, because it's sort of like, well, yeah, Fitbit's up there, Jawbone's up there. It's what you would expect. So we're starting to see some volatility. And when that next list comes out and it shows the market share of Apple Watch, whether it's good or bad, everybody's going to pay attention.
Certainly so. And at the end of the day, we really, are doing a very 2005 show. I feel like that's, we're going back into time. And I think it's about time we get out of Iraq.
Yeah. Wait. Oh, actually, in that case, it might be the opposite, depending who you ask. Verge reports that Nest will hold an event on Wednesday, June 17th, which would be its first substantial smart home product announcement since Google bought Nest. TechCrunch previously reported Nest might be moving into audio. A lot of people think maybe it's some kind of wearable Google Glass derivative. Those people are probably crazy, but, Nest means the whole home. Justin, what do you expect?
I expect something that is clean and focused, and I feel like that, to me, is the litmus test for where Nest has gone since their acquisition by Google, because I certainly hope that remains what is their selling point, because that, everything that they've done previous to that had always had a very clean, smart industrial design to it.
Let's take a look at the top 2 stories from our subreddit. We pay attention to that subreddit for all the stories we pick. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Griff72 submitted the top one. Yahoo Tech's Rafe Needleman reported that the updated Pebble app for Pebble Time is still delayed, even though people are getting their Pebble Time watches in Apple's App Store. Pebble got approval in the App Store on May 18th, but then found a minor bug, which they fixed and resubmitted within a couple days, 4 days. They resubmitted on May 22nd, and even with that minor change, a previously approved app is waiting in review. The updated Android app, however, is available in Google Play.
And habichuelacondulce submitted the Engadget article noting a New York Times report that the U.S. Justice Department issued 2 memos to the NSA in 2012, allowing the NSA to search U.S. citizens' international data traffic without a warrant in order to find foreign hackers or malware. The memos allowed tracking of IP addresses and cyber signatures that could be tied to foreign governments. The memos were obtained in documents provided by a little fellow you might know by the name of Edward Snowden.
He's not that small. He's a normal-sized guy.
No, he's kind of he's actually a tall dude. I'm sorry. My apologies to Eddie.
Yeah, to Eddie. You can call him Eddie if you want. This is on the heels of the passage of the Freedom Act in the United States, which is a somewhat more restricted version of Section 215 of the Patriot Act. And I think it still amazes me that we are continuing to pull what are relevant revelations out of the Snowden documents years later. It's years later now. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Let's get into our discussion story, because that's the headlines. Dish and T-Mobile, folks, gonna get together. Charlie Ergen, you probably don't hear about him as much as John Legere, but Ergen behind the scenes is just as much of a maverick. Legere is just cursy, and so he
doesn't drop a mixtape on stage with 4-letter words whenever he gets up and does a talk or a product launch.
But you got 2 rogue coming from behind companies here. Dish is the number 2 satellite maker, which makes it low on the video bundled video providing role here in the United States. T-Mobile USA number 4, but getting very close to catching Sprint for number 3. They make a great match, Justin, in lots of ways. T-Mobile's big ding is they don't have quite the coverage, and even in places where they do have coverage, they don't have it in the more desirable 700 megahertz spectrum. In fact, Sprint has more coverage than AT&T or Verizon spectrum-wise. It's just that AT&T and Verizon own more valuable spectrum than Sprint does. Dish owns a lot of that valuable spectrum. They own a ton of low-band 700 megahertz spectrum. That's the easy-to-use spectrum. It easily goes through walls. And T-Mobile could make great use of that because Dish hasn't done anything with it. The rumor has been Dish wants to roll out their own service and they haven't. On the other side, every carrier wants to have a video provider. Verizon bought OnCue from Intel, which all indications say is going to end up being some kind of mobile video service. AT&T is about to get approval to buy DirecTV. So it makes sense that, hey, T-Mobile wants to get into that game too. I don't see, I mean, is there a downside to this, Justin?
For consumers, it doesn't immediately appear so. These are two of the very, probably top of the list in all industries of kind of consumer-friendly, very, very disruptive in the kind of deals that they want to make and products and services that they want to offer. They are very consumer-focused. It would seem that they are a match made in heaven. The big question is exactly how does this work? So to understand that more, and I didn't, and Tom, you don't know about this, but I emailed a source. And sourcing, I'm working the beat here, Tom.
Nice.
This is somebody who works at one of the major mobile telecoms, not T-Mobile. I asked him for his opinion on basically where T-Mobile is in terms of spectrum and what the Dish spectrum could help them with. He, very much says that this could be a game changer, specifically for data. That if they are looking, and that's really what you're looking for, especially if you are looking to push more and more video content, that's where not only T-Mobile will be able to bolster their service, but more specifically, what they rely on right now is high speeds because they don't have a ton of people on their network. The new Dish spectrum that they would get if they merged would help them continue to sustain their speeds and not hit big product dampening choke points, which would happen if they continue the growth that they've seen.
So explain that again then. What this means is that T-Mobile gets an advantage on AT&T and Verizon then.
It certainly creates a pathway for them to continue to challenge them in the markets that they already have good speed. That if they continue to grow at the level they were at now, you would see those speeds go down. The product would get worse.
Just capacity, a capacity problem.
At capacity, because that's ultimately, whenever we really complain about AT&T and Verizon, it's not necessarily that they are not making available tremendous wonders to get that kind of data to you. It is very often the engineering problem to figure out how you do that in bigger cities that continue to raise the bar in terms of how much data you get. And that's a problem that T-Mobile has not yet seen, but could have been a problem if this Dish merger does not go through, which is why they've looked to merge with Sprint in the past.
Well, and they still might face that problem if this, we know how long mergers take to first of all get formalized. Apparently the money's the issue here, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's willing to play along with each other, but it could take a while. It may never happen, at which point that is an interesting thing to know as a T-Mobile subscriber in any case, because even if this does happen, then it has to go through regulatory approval. T-Mobile may start hitting that capacity issue before it would go through.
So one other thing that my source points out is that Dish has the high bid for a ton of AWS-3 spectrum at the most recent auction.
Oh, yeah.
That's obviously done before these merger talks have been made public. The winners have not been announced, and the high bid does not necessarily mean the winner. Part of what makes them a very attractive candidate for getting a lot of this spectrum is because the idea is to reward the small fry. If they are not looked at as the small fry anymore, it might affect their bid for even more of this spectrum, which could help bolster a combined product.
Well, and their bid at the last auction is being challenged because they applied for small operator discounts, and Verizon and AT&T complained that they're not doing anything with the spectrum that they own. They shouldn't get any discounts. The discounts are meant to encourage small operators to be able to expand, and Dish can't claim it's a small operator wanting to expand if it's never done anything with its spectrum. So they're kind of under attack from that end, and if they got T-Mobile, they would be under attack from no longer the end of not using the spectrum, but the end of they're definitely not a small operator when they own the number 4 operator in the United States.
And here's the big one. the 800-pound gorilla is the 600 megahertz spectrum auction that goes next year on the block, which both T-Mobile and Dish were very expected to be players in. What does that mean for the bidding in terms if they are a single entity at that point? Not only in how they are looked at by the people awarding the spectrum, but also what are their cash availability after the expensive process of merging? Does it make them more or less likely to win that big 600 spectrum next year?
Yeah, that's the white space spectrum that's being reclaimed from TV. That's incredibly valuable because it works. Television's been working for a long time, and it's incredibly desirable. I still go back to that question of, like, could they even get this kind of merger done in time for that auction, which muddies that question you're bringing up even more.
Yeah.
If they've got a merger under regulatory approval at the same time that the same agency that's contributing to the regulatory approval is conducting an auction at which they might want to try to get a discount because they're two different companies, that's just going to complicate the bid process.
Not to mention the fact that the other people in that that battle that wants to see those waters muddy as possible, and Dish and T-Mobile with as many hands tied behind their back as possible have a lot of lobbying money in Washington and can continue to make sure that every I and T is crossed on that merger going forward.
All right, but let's go to the other side of this, because what T-Mobile gets is that spectrum advantage. And even if they have problems with the auctions, Dish does own a lot of spectrum already, so that's going to help. T-Mobile gets video. And as I mentioned, AT&T wants DirecTV. Verizon's got OnCue. This has become a matter of faith now that if you're a mobile carrier, you need to get into video somehow, and mostly because of the advertising that you can sell on it. OnCue was conceived as more of a console in your home, but Verizon seems to be pitching it as a mobile service, which might still have a console element. It's very unclear. We're all working on secondhand information. Verizon hasn't announced anything yet, so we'll see what they do announce. But it does seem like it's coming out of the wireless side, not the Fios side. That said, we definitely know AT&T wants to get DirecTV, and here's why. Adobe put out a report about TV Everywhere, or authenticated TV. So this is where you've got a subscription, say with a DirecTV or Dish, and then you log in on your mobile device to get video from one of the channels. Like you log into the Fox Now app, for instance. Adobe found that there were 500 billion page visits, 200 billion video starts, and 2.8 billion TV authentications for these kinds of property. Authenticated TV grew 300% year over year, and here's the kicker, 62% of it was on Apple devices. 30% on the iPad, 18% on iPhones, 17% on Android, and Apple TV is rising. They doubled their share to 10%, passing Roku. Roku back there in the back. In fact, boxes overall combined make up 24%. That includes not only Apple TV, Roku, but things like the Xbox, Android TVs, etc. That's a big jump. They jumped from 6 to 24%, so the boxes are a rising category. But right now, mobile dominates. PCs only 7%, Macs only 3%, smart TVs, forget about it, 2%. There you go. That's what they are looking at these carriers saying, folks, we need to get in on this television business somehow and insert ourselves in that TV Everywhere process and take a cut. In that case, makes perfect sense.
Not to mention the fact that as people talk less and less on phones and use the idea of voice minutes and stuff like that become less and less relevant, and data becomes more and more, video eats up a lot of data. You can, like you mentioned, you can double dip and sell advertising on top of it. It seems to be a reasonable next lily pad for these gigantic behemoths to start to push money and resources toward while one element recedes. This would be gigantic, especially considering how forward-thinking Dish and T-Mobile have both been. You could imagine that if they are a combined underdog against other behemoths, that the idea of very competitive pricing, consumer-friendly models for switching, and what Dish has made a name for recently of being the first one to really come out with a, hey, look, here's all of your cable that you would normally get, or a vast majority of it, over the air. It seems like a match made in heaven, or at least something that would fundamentally kind of reshape where this new world would go otherwise.
And don't forget that Dish owns not only Sling Box, but Sling TV. Hold your net neutrality gasps until the end of this sentence, but what if T-Mobile did for television what it's doing for music and had a pre-installed Sling TV app on all of its mobile devices that it supported?
That's going to be the new battle. And that's where we are going to see, obviously Apple has a tremendous advantage, and in terms of how people are watching it. But if you're T-Mobile and you can offer, hey, get a device with us, and now all of a sudden the idea of getting a tablet through T-Mobile or something seems like more of an interesting idea because it's your television. I mean, man, that seems pretty.
And then there's the idea that Apple finally gets their television service off the ground, which by all accounts it's not going to happen at WWDC. But T-Mobile has been working closely with Apple on things. If this merger went through, would that help or would that hurt it? A lot of the scuttlebutt I'm reading is that the biggest downside to any kind of merger like this is a lot of other companies simply don't like working with Charlie Ergen. Is that going to be a negative, or will John Legere be able to continue to strike deals and actually improve things for Dish in that respect? Who knows? I'm not saying Ergen's a bad guy at all. I'm just seeing people speculating on that.
Yeah, whenever this stuff happens, and this is the other element that I always get obsessed with, where did this story come from? Who is talking to people within the knowledge of these talks that has that level of detail? This looks to me like something that was put out by some people close to this negotiation that wants to float it as a trial balloon, not only for regulatory purposes, but also to kind of, I think, garner some good press. Because I think these are two companies that people think fondly of and would like to see do better, especially considering that their competitors are AT&T, Verizon, and the like, which people do not necessarily have very fond feelings of at all.
All right, let's get on to our pick of the day. Tuesday on episode 2506, we talked about the Pinterest buy button. Patrick Bezos suggested that someone finding a recipe on Pinterest maybe in the future could use the button to add all the ingredients in the recipe to a shopping list. Well, Paul, a.k.a. Hot Branch, is enjoying January in Montreal, apparently, where Mother Nature is off her meds. Had a suggestion for an app that does just what Patrick was asking: Asparagus My Recipes from asparagusapp.net. It's available on Android. It can pull down ingredients lists from web pages and categorize them for you. The paid version extends the ability of the free version, including the ability to scale a recipe up or down. You want to make just 1 serving, 5 servings, etc. Paul says, now when I find a recipe online that interests me, I share it to Asparagus, and voila, it's on my phone and tablet.
That is great. I need to see whether or not.
I was using an app called Big Oven, which swore it did this, and it didn't do it very well. So I'm going to check out Asparagus and see if it does it better, because that's kind of amazing. Send your picks to feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. And if I haven't removed Big Oven, well, now you know. Our message of the day, sent to feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can send your messages there, too, is from Joe. Joe just bought an Amazon Echo. Well, Justin, maybe you should read this.
She arrived 2 weeks ago, and I must say I'm in tech love. She is extremely responsive to my voice. I most commonly ask her the time, weather, to set alarms, or play music playlists. I sometimes ask her to tell me a joke of her other words of encouragement or empathy. She sounds really sincere. I especially like lying in bed and having her read me the tech newscast for the day. The only thing I would have liked to see is the ability for her to recognize that I'm speaking to her without having to call her out, call her name before each command. It looks like Jibo can do this, but he is nearly $700 more, so I think I'll stick with my girl Alexa. Well, at least until we have a fight and break up. But for now, she's the one for me. Cheers, Joe.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Yeah, Joe likes his Amazon Echo, and frankly, it's the best written review of the Echo that we've got yet. Apologies to anybody else who said good reviews. You guys were great, but I wasn't sure if this was acceptable for the show, to be honest.
Dude, it got a little hot and heavy, man. I feel like people are going to be pulling over their cars listening to this. It got real in a major way.
Thank you, Joe, for sending that. And thank you, Justin Robert Young. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Indeed. It's always great to be here, especially on big fun news days like this.
Yeah, we had chock full of news. This was good stuff today. Of course, just a programming note. I will be here Friday, of course, Monday, WWDC. I am off, and the patrons know this, I'm off shooting in Seattle for another project Tuesday through Friday, but y'all are going to be in good hands. We've got a great schedule lined up for you, and then I'll be back the Monday after that. Justin Robert Young, you'll be in with me for the WWDC coverage on Monday. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, no, this is going to be really, 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 really cool, and it's you know, I'm actually, I think, hopefully they launch music that day.
It's got to be, right?
I am itching to get rid of my RDO subscription and go whole hog into whatever they would like to offer. And if I don't like that, then I'm going to Spotify. But
I'm on my free month of Google Music All Access. Time's wasted, Apple, if you want to try to win me back. Follow Justin Robert Young on the Twitters, twitter.com/Justin R. Young, and of course, one of his many other projects. Which one you want to tell folks about?
Let's talk about, in the most family-friendly terms, The Jury Show. It's a one-mic show in which I talk about whatever I'd like. If you like some stuff that's a little bit more silly, a little bit more contemplative, then you will probably like that program. However, we hit a milestone on the Patreon for that, and the reward was that I would do an interview show. So now it is not a 4 episodes a month podcast. It is a 5 episodes a month podcast, and we did the first one yesterday. It is with somebody by the name of Doxy. She is an ingenious woman, not only a blacksmith, but also a hardware manufacturer, and a cam girl.
Aha.
And the next
twist
for which you that she melds all of those things, I think.
Well, she's a blacksmith. She should be able to meld things.
Oh, she certainly does. She is a solderer. She is a welder. No, I thought it was very, very fascinating. If you know, it's not necessarily salacious or anything. It's more Charlie Rose than Howard Stern in terms of the sex of it. But if you have ever been interested in how much people make, and also how to make an Arduino-based, man, I don't know,
something Arduino-based,
an Arduino-based thing that you might imagine a cam girl would use, then go ahead and check it out. Jury, that is jurytalks.com. It's free for everybody, but if you'd like to support it, it's patreon.com/JURY.
Thank you, patrons, for supporting so many different projects out there, not just juries, but FSL Tonight, This Week in Science, which I'm a patron of, T2T2. It just makes so many things possible that were not possible before, and we appreciate Patreon. We appreciate our patrons and the 5,051 people supporting us there. And if you don't support us there, that's fine. We love your support in any way possible. DailyTechNewsShow.com/support has all the ways, PayPal, Bitcoin, or you can just tell folks about the show. I see people doing that on Twitter a lot, and I love every single one of them. Thank you for doing that. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. Listen to the show live at alphageekradio.com and visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. Tomorrow is Friday. That means Darren Kitchen and Len Peralta drawing. Talk to you then.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Great show, everybody. What should we call this one?
What's the
Showbot.tv.
Showbit? Showbit.
Showbit. A dish best served mobile.
Ooh.
The dish ran away with the phone.
That's it. That's it.
Tinvec
That's
and Dark
one.
Redeemer joint.
Yeah. No. The dish ran away with the phone. I feel like there's nothing better.
Doop, doop, doop.
Good team effort. Although Dish Best Served Mobile has a special place in my heart. Apple angers BioCow instead of Jury.
Yeah, I guess BioCow got an Apple Watch and it didn't work. Which
Crap!
Watch and it didn't work after waiting for it. I would certainly want to crush somebody's skull. So I understand BioCow's frustration.
Less Facebook is more. Who watches the Apple Watches in stores? Good that we got that trope in there.
Mm-hmm. Very important to me.
And then, of course,
Xiaomi.
the wearables. And the ubiquitous stop Pebble time. Every time we mention Pebble time.
All right, schedule. Right?
Schedule?
Or-
What you got?
Schedule. In chat room, when you... Oh, there it is. Oh, look at that.
I mean, Dish Ran Away with the Phone has two, because it's Tinvec and Dark Redeemer. So we're talking 12 here.
Oh, yeah. That's
Total.
without question the title.
Done.
Oh wow! So
Can't reach
crazy,
the gavel, but
crazy rumor.
yeah.
Apparently, Bill Simmons deposed ESPN sports magnate, and Jon
Yahoo.
Stewart
Oh, even better.
might be launching a subscription website.
I had my bets on Yahoo.
With special correspondent David Letterman.
Yeah.
Yes,
No, I
seriously, that's going to
Let's just
happen.
throw that in. Why not?
Senior European correspondent David Letterman. Oh, that is so smart.
Interesting.
I wondered if they were going to go independent because I think Bill Simmons has had enough of corporate
Yeah,
America.
I think he'll probably still wind up at TNT to do like basketball commentary. I think he'll probably have some element of
You know,
of
like pregame stuff.
Yeah.
yeah, either that or I could very much see TNT getting into or NBA TV or something like that, getting into the business of giving him his own talk show / interview series / something like that.
Yeah.
But that they do share an agent, Bill Simmons and Jon Stewart. So it's not.
Oh,
Yeah.
that agent's excited.
Pop culture obsessive Bill Simmons, I think, needs to feed that side of him. And Jon Stewart is the perfect person to do that with. Well, count me in as one subscriber. I'm in.
Yeah.
How much will you pay?
That's
I don't
a good
usually
question.
like a paywall on a thing. But
I think Jon Stewart will insist that it be very affordable. And if he doesn't, then he has lost touch with his people.
how much is affordable? That's what I'm always curious.
$1 a month. If that amount sounds familiar.
It does. That's like, well, if they do it daily, that's like 5 cents a show, Jenny.
I know. What
How
a
could you possibly
bargain.
survive on 5 cents a show?
I don't know.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I would, and I know my husband would, so that's 2 subscribers. And if Letterman were there, then you've got Scott, so that's 3, and you would probably do it for Letterman, that's 4. So 4 subscribers at $1 a month, I think that's a commercially viable option.
I don't think that a site like this would do anything less than 5.
Yeah, you're probably right. 5 would be low.
Well, I mean, because to me, everything hinges on Netflix at $7.99. or 8.
Well, side note, it's really interesting. I was having a go around with Jackie Hearn on Twitter about Showtime, and she's like, "How is it worth $10.99?" And I was trying to explain, like, "Well, you pay more for it on cable." She's like, "Yeah, but I'm comparing it to Netflix," and it's a great point. Like, all of a sudden, it's not like pay $12 to add Showtime to your cable bill. It's pay $11 for this service that you have alongside Netflix and Hulu, which are much cheaper.
But I also kind of feel like the idea with HBO Now and the new Showtime vertical is like, well, we kind of understand that you're probably going to cancel it when your favorite show's not on, you know, because our worth to you is totally in original content and not in movie library. You know, there's a million different ways to get movie library, and if you know you really, really, really want to see a movie that's not available on your Netflix and it's not available for free somewhere, and you don't just download it, then you'll probably just wind up buying it from the 50,000 places that will sell you that movie in very DRM-friendly fashion, right?
Okay.
So I think they kind of have to do it because I think they build into the idea that these are seasonal subscriptions, that we are making it friendlier and easier for people to do that.
Right, because you don't have to sign a contract. You can pay for 1 month and then quit.
Exactly. What I think is great about a Bill Simmons-Jon Stewart partnership, although oddly kind of weird to hear their names together, considering they didn't really have a connection before, is that both had either daily or near daily relationships with their audiences. You know, Grantland was a full-fledged up-and-running site, right? And Bill Simmons, between writing, television, and podcasts, pretty much had some kind of interaction with his audience every single day. So these are the kinds of personalities that I think you are used to having some kind of, hey, I'm going to go there every day, and there's going to be some kind of interaction. The question is whether or not Jon Stewart wants to put forth effort every single day after putting forth effort every single day.
Yeah,
I think that's why I think it's not going to be a totally video and audio. It will have video and audio elements. I think it's going to be writing. I think it's going to be Grantland, the free version. Not free as in money, but Grantland, the free from corporate influence version. Because when you start the thing that you love, my family's been following Bill Simmons since he was just writing on page 2 of ESPN about the Boston Red Sox. So, like, we've been following that guy a long time. We've been following Stewart a long time, and they want to have their own universe. That's all they want. And maybe because it's Stewart, it'll be backed by...
They also want money.
Yeah, well, that's what makes me think it'll be backed by a media entity, but it'll be much more interesting if it's totally not. If it becomes like Louis C.K.'s site, if it becomes like, oh, I don't know, everything that's going on here.
I think it'll have venture capital to it, because that was also what the big, whenever you would hear anti-Simmons sources within ESPN before they let him go, it was always like, well, it'll just let him go so he can get his venture capital media and just go do what he wants, is what he wants to do anyway. So I feel like, and that seems more plausible than him like, you know, going to Bleacher Report or something.
Yeah.
What, he's not going to start a Vox blog?
Vox wouldn't. I mean, I guess, but that's also Vox is venture capital based, right?
Well, yeah, bunch of investors. Yeah, totally. It's true. They own Recode now.
Yeah.
But who pays for Vox? I don't understand.
Comcast.
Where did that? Really?
Mm-hmm. They're one of the investors. The only reason I know that is I regularly read stories about Comcast on Vox and Recode, both, and they're like, Comcast, NBC Universal is an investor in this site. They're a minority investor, though. It's not like Comcast is coming in and telling them what to report.
Yeah.
Very obviously, if you've read anything from Nilay Patel or anyone else at The Verge.
I just lost my train of thought because someone was messaging me. But
that's the digital age right there.
Gone. It's gone. You just saw it. Multitasking is a lie.
Hey, real quick, do you want to talk about this this Apple Watch thing that we were talking about?
Oh yeah. So, oh sorry, you can't hear that, but I'm testing the video. Okay, it works. Everything's published. Yeah.
Hey.
So in Slack before the show, Justin was saying he was hearing us talking about the Apple Watch, and you thought that the sort of description of the Apple Watch's value as relative to your use of notifications was pretty apt.
Well, so yeah, so we had a conversation. I forget either with FSL or in Hearthstone BattleNet chat about the Apple Watch and where we found it interesting or like sticky in our lives, right? And you found it less so than I did. And in kind of drilling down on why that is, what we kind of hit on is that not only notifications, but I would even go so further to say the front lock screen of your iPhone, like what your relationship to that screen is. Do you find it useful? Do you interact with it? Do you often find it full? Is it often barren? Like, that is, for me, the best barometer for whether or not somebody will find the Apple Watch interesting or useful. I find that front lock screen very interesting. I very often use it for getting on planes. I use it to respond to text messages without getting into the app. I use it to dismiss and archive emails. There's a lot of that goes on for me that now has been made easier and better on the Apple Watch. And that, to me, is the primary function of what, in the base level of the OS, what is interesting about it.
I would make it even simpler. I agree with everything you're saying. I would say that, Justin, you travel constantly, and Tom spends a lot of time in his basement. And therefore, that Apple Watch is super useful to you,
Wait a
Justin.
minute.
Young.
Well, that's true. First of all, it's not actually a basement. It's just a lower
I
level.
know. I went for the joke. I'm sorry. But I would say that as a person who's, like, Justin is a constant traveler.
Yeah,
He
it's
lives
absolutely true.
in the air. And so I could see how the watch, you would take to it as an immediate use.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there is an element of that. Which, by the way, I was having this conversation with Tom while I was in the air, flying back from this morning. But I will say that I am also very obsessive about, or I try to be at my most productive, obsessive about email and about getting back to text messages like fast. That's like a thing that is just a thing for me. And whether or not I am alone in a hotel room or alone in a very spacious, well-decorated basement, if I might say.
You don't have to sugarcoat it.
To be able to talk to my watch in a way that's not going to embarrass me. Whereas, like, if I was in an office, if I was working 9 to 5 in an office, I would have far more opportunity to be like, oh, no, like, responding to things very quickly, especially with voice to text, which I found very useful and actually very accurate, is not a thing, because I'm not going to be in a cubicle saying, like, yeah, give me the broccoli. Boop.
I think that's part of it, and I think people who use notifications, I mean, people who travel a lot and move around will need to require on notifications more. I think that's kind of what Jenny was pointing out. But at the same time, there are just different styles. There are people, as I think when I was talking to you about it, who have their email notifications on and their phone dings every time they get an email. That would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
I want as few notifications as possible.
And that's the thing. I'm one of those guys. Like, I would rather see emails come in, so all the ones that I need to get out of my life, I can dismiss at a glance, as opposed to, like, having them pile up, and then I have anxiety about dealing with a gigantic pile of emails.
We got legit breaking news here. U.S. government agencies hit by massive breach affecting federal personnel data.
Uh-oh.
It's a BBC News thing. Just popped up on my phone as a notification.
Uh-oh!
Oh, boy.
Tag it in there.
I think that's all they got, though.
Just one line.
Yeah, there's no story associated with it. It's that fresh.
Yeah, I didn't see it in Twitter during the show.
No, it just
Yeah, it just popped.
on my notifications. I do have breaking news as a notification because that's something I actually feel like that's legit. Like I need to know that.
Yeah, in general, I doubt. So I need every email because I know it will be personally relevant to me because, of course, proximity is newsworthiness, and you can't get any closer to me than my own email. What I do doubt is breaking news judgment because I very often find that very frustrating.
I am very careful about who I allow to give me breaking news. I have CNN breaking news turned on my iPad, and I keep meaning to turn it off because, wow, do they alert me about things I don't care about. BBC is pretty good.
BBC World Service.
They invented an entire accent for that.
It's 25 minutes past the hour. Yeah, it was a bit.
Genocide in Africa today. That's every BBC World Service report.
That's not true. Its petrol station exploded. Yeah, no, you're right, Roger. They actually created the BBC accent to be as massively appealing and authoritative as possible, right?
And it's funny, that's what people associate as a British accent. Like if you associated like a newscaster accent, like what they consider the non-accident American tone, to be like no one talks like that except your newscaster. It's an obnoxious one too.
All right.
I actually wonder sometimes if the lack of notifications in my life changes my perspective on things. I was actually thinking of this more particularly with Facebook and browser problems, because when I don't keep Facebook open, but when I do launch it, it tends to go really slow. And I'm like, wow, this would just be eating up all kinds of memory cycles and power cycles and bandwidth if I just left it open. And I wonder if that explains a lot of people's issues with certain software.
I don't know. The one you gave me is currently out of battery because I can't find the charger.
Wait,
So
what'd
make it
you
really
do
get
with the charger?
No, it's in my backpack. It's been like a tough
okay.
week. So like I haven't been able to
It's not that you
create
can't
the,
find it. It's just
No,
that
I
you
know where
haven't-
it is. I just have never been in one spot long enough to
Yeah,
charge
now
it.
there's the thing, right? Apple Watch needs to be a routine charging situation. When I was wearing it, I had the charger by the bedside table. At night, I'd take it off, put it there, charge it up. In the morning, I'd put it back on. And that worked for me. But what Jenny has found is because she uses more notifications, she uses it more, that's not enough. It won't get her through the day. And so she has to carry the charger with her, and then that breaks the whole cycle.
Yeah. And also, it's not even that the phone gets low, right? So the watch gets low. It gets to about 20% by the end of the day. And I had an interesting Twitter exchange with a bunch of our peoples floating around on Twitters. And my phone really does seem to get sapped pretty quickly by Bluetooth, the Bluetooth connection to the watch, more so than others have experienced in our entirely non-scientific sample. And I think that's because I just use the phone so heavily, and I haven't yet found the tipping point of use to transfer that battery drain onto the phone, right? I'm still using the phone more than I would use the watch. And so the combination of the Bluetooth tether and the use of the phone is too much for one day's charge. So say we all.
So say we all. I am out of the post. Stay tuned, folks, for the Giz Wiz today, immediately following the Simmons Stewart Strategy live chat filled with unintelligible basketball references, Shawshank Redemption glorification, and outrage at the ineffectiveness of the political system. Good night.